Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where real horror walks in daylight, and sometimes evil wears no mask at all. Today, we uncover the chilling case of Nasen Saadi, a young criminology student whose obsession with violence turned into something real. Clue for tonight: what could drive a man to strike without reason? On a sunny day in May of 2024, beachgoers at Durley Chine in Bournemouth, England, scattered in panic. A knife-wielding attacker had struck down two women, killing one and seriously injuring the other. The attacker? A 20-year-old student from Croydon, named Nasen Saadi. It was mid-afternoon on May 24th. Tourists and families were spread across Durley Chine Beach, soaking in the rare English sun. But what followed was chaos. Around 3:15 p.m., eyewitnesses reported screams. Pure terror, one called it. Two women had been violently attacked near the beach huts. Paramedics arrived to a grisly scene. Amie Gray, age 34, was found with multiple stab wounds to her chest and neck. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Next to her, Leanne Miles, grievously injured, but still conscious. Her breathing shallow, her body trembling in shock. She would later testify to seeing a dark figure lunge at them without warning, and said, "He didn't say a word, he just kept stabbing." The attacker fled on foot, disappearing into nearby woods. Police swarmed the area. A manhunt began. Helicopters, drones, canine units. Within hours, they arrested Nasen Saadi, a criminology student living in Croydon. He was quiet during interrogation, unemotional, and when asked why, he said nothing. He refused to unlock his phone. He gave no motive, just silence. What led to this random act of horror? Why two women he'd never met? And what darkness lived behind those cold, observant eyes? The first victim was Amie Gray, age 34, a beloved mother, fitness coach, and youth mentor from Poole, Dorset. She was known for her bright energy, dedication to mental health advocacy, and infectious laughter. Friends described her as the type of person who walked into a room and made it lighter. She worked closely with teens struggling with anxiety and body image, always encouraging them to own their space. On the day she died, Amie wasn't at work. She had taken the afternoon off to enjoy the seaside with her close friend, Leanne Miles, a woman in her 30s, equally vibrant and full of life. The two walked along Durley Chine, chatting about upcoming plans and family matters. But in a moment, all of it turned to terror. When the attack happened, Leanne later recalled that Amie had tried to shield her. She fought back and paid the ultimate price. Her family released a statement. Amie lived boldly and gave her all to everyone she met. That her life was taken so senselessly is beyond understanding. Leanne survived, but would carry both physical scars and emotional ones for life. Her recovery was long, her trauma deeper. Neither woman had ever seen Nasen Saadi before. There was no connection, no history, no warning. They were strangers, but victims all the same. Nasen Saadi was 20 years old, a student of criminology living in Croydon, South London. By all accounts, he was quiet, reserved, and intensely analytical. His academic record showed he had a strong interest in the psychology of serial killers. In one essay he wrote, "Control, not chaos, defines the most dangerous minds." He was obsessed with true crime, watching court footage, reading forensic studies, even cataloging notorious cases in private online forums. but no one thought he'd act on it, not until he boarded a train to Bournemouth on May 24th, carrying a concealed knife, with no bag, no phone charger, no beachwear, nothing that indicated leisure. Investigators said he had no relationship with the victims and no prior criminal record. But they later uncovered a disturbing pattern. Saadi had reportedly refused to comply with the digital disclosure notice. He would not unlock his phone. Prosecutors believe it held key planning evidence, possibly searches, messages, or notes. During trial, a psychiatrist described him as having a detached emotional register, but no diagnosed mental illness. He never explained why he did it, never apologized, never showed remorse. The judge would later say, "You acted without motive, without warning, and without humanity." And that silence still echoes. It was supposed to be an ordinary Friday. May 24th, 2024. The weather at Durley Chine Beach was warm, skies mostly clear. Families played in the surf, couples strolled hand in hand, and the sun cast golden light across the sand. But then, the peace shattered. Just after 3:15 p.m., multiple calls flooded emergency services. Witnesses described a man in black charging from the wooded path behind the beach huts. His target, 2 women, Amie Gray and Leanne Miles, walking alone on a quieter stretch of sand. The attack lasted less than 60 seconds. According to survivor testimony, Saadi never spoke. He ran at them, knife raised, and began stabbing wildly. Amie was struck first, stabbed multiple times in the chest, back, and neck. She screamed for Leanne to run. Leanne, turning to help, was stabbed in the abdomen and arm before collapsing. Eyewitnesses nearby sprinted toward the screams, but the assailant was already fleeing. He ran back toward the cliffside trail, disappearing into the brush. Emergency responders arrived in minutes. Amie was declared dead at the scene. Her body lay on the sand, surrounded by scattered beach bags and a pair of sunglasses that had fallen beside her. Leanne Miles, barely conscious, was stabilized on site and rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. The beach was evacuated, a perimeter secured, and a manhunt launched. Locals were told to remain indoors. CCTV footage from earlier in the day showed Saadi arriving in Bournemouth, alone, wearing a black hoodie and dark jeans. He purchased nothing. He spoke to no one. He walked straight toward the beach and waited. Investigators believed the attack was premeditated, but random. There was no relationship between Saadi and either victim. Police called it a pure act of violence, targeted not at individuals, but at strangers. When Saadi was arrested later that evening, less than 8 hours after the attack, he was calm. He offered no resistance. He carried no identification. The knife was recovered during his arrest. It bore Amie Gray's blood, but no fingerprints. He had worn gloves. He refused to speak, refused to explain. And when asked to unlock his phone, he declined. The only thing he did say? Nothing. Even during the trial, Saadi remained expressionless. He watched security footage of his own attack without blinking. When Leanne Miles took the stand, describing how her best friend died trying to protect her, he didn't flinch. The court heard how Amie had raised her hands, tried to shield Leanne, and even fought back. But the blows were too many, too deep. A mother, a mentor, a woman full of life, cut down by a stranger, all for reasons still unknown. Within hours of the stabbing at Durley Chine Beach, Dorset police launched an emergency incident response. The attacker was unknown, armed, and on the run. Officers secured the beach area, evacuated tourists, and began sweeping the surrounding woodland and coastal paths. CCTV footage from train stations and beach access points was pulled immediately. That's where they found him. Just before noon, surveillance showed Nasen Saadi arriving in Bournemouth via train from London. He traveled alone. He didn't speak to anyone. He moved with eerie purpose. Tips poured in. Witnesses described a man matching Saadi's build fleeing into the woods. He was spotted later that evening near a local bus terminal, where he was arrested without resistance. Once in custody, he said nothing. But police were already building a case. They had footage, they had the knife, and soon they had motiveless malice. The forensic case was unusually clean and chilling. The knife recovered during Saadi's arrest contained Amie Gray's DNA, confirming its use. But it also showed signs of being recently cleaned. No fingerprints, no skin cells. He had worn gloves. His clothes, however, told a clearer story. Blood from both victims was detected on his jeans and hoodie. Splatter patterns consistent with close-range stabbing. Fibers from the beach scene matched those found in his pockets. But perhaps the biggest obstacle? Saadi refused to unlock his phone. Police served a Section 49 RIPA notice, requiring him to disclose access. He declined, and was later convicted of failing to comply. Digital evidence remained locked. And with no confession, police and prosecutors had to rely entirely on forensic links, CCTV, and eyewitness testimony. Still, it was enough. Enough to reveal a predator hiding in plain sight. The community response to the attack was immediate and heartbroken. Vigils were held in Poole in Bournemouth, where hundreds gathered to mourn Amie Gray, lighting candles and leaving flowers along the beach promenade. Parents wept. Teens embraced. Strangers stood in silence. Amie was remembered as the soul of every room, a woman who helped others find strength, until she used her own to protect a friend. Local leaders called for stronger public safety measures, especially in tourist areas. Mental health professionals were made available to beachgoers traumatized by the events. And across the country, people asked, why her? News outlets across the United Kingdom quickly seized on the horrifying story. Headlines read, "Criminology student charged in random beach murder." Bright life stolen in broad daylight. True crime forums and podcasts speculated on Saadi's motives, or lack thereof. His studies in criminology, his silence during trial, his refusal to open his phone. It all fed the narrative of obsession turned deadly. But the media also rallied around Amie's story, celebrating her life, her work, and her heroism in her final moments. She was no longer just a victim. She became a symbol of courage. What makes the Nasen Saadi case so chilling is its complete lack of motive. There were no prior threats, no relationship between Saadi and the victims, no manifesto, no online declarations, no clear mental illness diagnosis. He was a criminology student, a person who studied killers, and then became one. Investigators explored whether Saadi was acting out a fantasy, attempting to replicate the types of crimes he'd studied. They searched for signs of radicalization, obsession, or emotional crisis, but nothing substantial emerged. He had no criminal history, no known triggers. The attack appeared to be completely random. In court, the prosecution said, "He chose his victims not out of hatred, but opportunity. That makes it more terrifying, not less. And Saadi? He never gave an explanation. To this day, no one truly knows why he did it. In December of 2024, after a full criminal trial, Nasen Saadi was convicted of murder, attempted murder, and failing to comply with a digital disclosure notice. The jury returned a guilty verdict in just over 4 hours. During sentencing, the judge called the crime brutal, calculated, and entirely devoid of human empathy. He noted that Saadi had shown no remorse, either in court or during arrest. Saadi was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 39 years behind bars. He will be in his 60s before he is ever eligible for parole. For Amie's family, the sentence was cold comfort. As her sister said outside court, "Nothing brings her back, but we needed the world to see that she mattered, that her life wasn't just taken, it was stolen." And for the rest of us, we're left with silence and a name now etched in tragedy, even with a conviction. The Nasen Saadi case leaves behind a trail of haunting unknowns. Why did a quiet student, one with no criminal past, plan and carry out such violence? What was in that locked phone? The one he refused to open? Was it random or something he carefully scripted? There were no online warnings, no manifesto, no clear moment where everything snapped. Just silence. One survivor, one life taken, and one man who may carry the answer to why with him forever. The case is solved on paper, but in spirit, it still lingers. In the wake of the attack, Bournemouth saw increased police patrols. Mental health outreach expanded, and debates rose about access to violent content in academic spaces. Schools reviewed how criminology is taught. Lawmakers discussed the growing disconnect between study and safeguarding. But the real impact? It lives in Amie's family, in Leanne's survival, and in the hearts of every beachgoer who saw paradise turn to panic. Amie's name now stands for strength, and Saadi's for a darkness no classroom could contain. What are your thoughts on the Nasen Saadi case? Could a different turn of events have changed everything? Let us know in the comments below. Did you spot the clue in today's story? Subscribe to Mysteries and Crime for more real cases, more voices, and more untold truths. As always, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe.